Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been some time since I've done a video for the simple reason I had a fall and hurt my right hand, so not been able to use it for quite a while. But I'm back again, and I'm going to continue with the flexible paste flowers, and I'm going to as some of the other videos that I've done, I'm redoing some of the flowers in flexible paste that I did in normal flower paste. Excuse me, that was my phone. So what I'm going to do today is Cymbideum Orchid. So I'll take you down to my board and show you the tools that we're going to use. Right, so the tools we're going to use are, these are the cutters for a Cymbideum Orchid. You need a small palette knife for picking your petals up, and a ball tool with I think this, I'm not sure whether this is the large one or the medium one. Can't remember because I've got that many. No, it's the large one. So I'm going to use the small end of the large ball tool for opening out the centre. So the first thing that I need to do is to make the column, which is this here. So I hope you can see that. I don't know if you can get my yellow pad and put it on there. So that's the column. Most orchids have a very similar column to this. The only difference is, depending on the orchid, is the size of the column. I would say that the Cymbideum Orchid has the largest of the columns, so that's the largest that you want to go with any orchid. So I'll just pop that to one side and I'll show you how to make that. So I'm going to get some paste out now. This hasn't been used for quite a while, so I'm going to have to knead this quite well, and I should have done this before I switched the camera on. But I'm only going to do one of each petal for this. I'm just going to rub a bit of white fat onto my hands. But while I'm kneading this, don't forget, anybody that's not subscribing to the channel, if you're not a subscriber, then subscribe and you get notified when I upload videos. And if you've got any comments about anything or any questions about anything, then please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below. Or if there's anything that you'd like to see me do that I haven't done before, and I've got a lot of videos on here. There's over 100 odd videos on my channel, so have a look through them and see if there's anything that you would like to see me do again in the flexible flower paste, or anything that I haven't done before, and I will try and oblige. Can't always, it depends on what it is, but I will try and fit anything in that I can. Now, other thing that I wanted to mention while I'm doing this, I'll just show you this veiner here. I'm not using the Cymbideum veiners for it, I'm using this one, which is an amaryllis veiner. Now, you can do a lot of your flowers with it, so anybody starting out and haven't got a lot of equipment, the veiners that you need to invest in are rose leaf veiners, which can be used for quite a few different leaves, and the amaryllis veiner for doing a lot of petals. I mean, it depends on how realistic you want to be. You don't necessarily have to vein everything depending on what you're doing, but because I'm teaching, then obviously I have to give everybody the option of using whatever, and try and find easy ways of doing it as well. All my flowers are made the simplest way to put on a cake, rather than getting all the detail into, as some people do. Some people want to be uber realistic, which means that you need a lot of expensive equipment and it takes a lot of time, and it depends on what you're doing for them. If you're doing them for somebody's cake and it's a commercial thing, then it needs to be as quick as you can, so that you can make some money out of it, because believe me, it's hard to make money in this business, because a lot of people don't want to pay the price. But I mean, cakes are expensive for a reason, and if you look at other tradespeople who are as qualified, if not some as qualified, they're charging anything from £75 an hour. Well, if we charge that for a cake, you'll be talking about thousands for a cake. basically. So plumbers and electricians tend to get the most money, and solicitors, £100 odd an hour, probably £200 odd an hour now. Not used one for a long time, so I wouldn't know. Right, so I've just cut into 3 a 20 gauge wire. So I'm going to take a small ball of paste, just make that a little bit smaller, about the size of a large druggie or a pea. I'm just going to roll that down, just bring that camera up a little bit more. I get complained about because I get out of shot and people are always telling me off. Right, so between your feet, hold it between your finger and your thumb, put your wire into the bottom. Now for anybody that hasn't used this flexible paste before, it's quite sticky, so you don't need any glue on your wire. And then roll it down underneath there. I've got some paste on my finger, that's why it's sticking to it. Just bear me a second, just get that going around there again. Right, so I've rolled that down there. So if you lay that on your hand, small end of your large ball tool, and push that into the top there to open that out, like that. So basically you've got like a sort of a spoon shape. You can open that out a little bit more just by pushing on the sides around it, like that. And then with your finger and your thumb, I'm going to pinch out each side to make an ear, like that. So that's one, that's the other side. Just have a look and see how we are. That's a little bit skew whiff on that side. Just turn that round that way. So if you look at it from the top, you can see that whether it's even or not. Okay. So if you squash your bottom bit, just roll that again a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is take a tiny ball of paste, and this wants to be probably about the size of the top of a glass-headed pin. So we're talking about tiny. I don't know whether you can see that or not. And then with something with a sharp edge, I'm going to use my palette knife here. I'm just going to split that in two, but I'm not going to cut right through it. I'm just making a groove through the centre, like that. And then just loosen that on my finger so it's not stuck. That's it. And then I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the top there, and just turn that over and pop that on the top like that. And just, you can go back in again with your palette knife or whatever, your cutting wheel or whatever else you're using, just to divide that in two like that. That's it. Bring that back. Make sure you haven't squashed that bit there. So that is the column for your orchid. Okay, so pop that to one side to dry. That needs to dry completely before you can do anything with it. Now if I carry on with that part of it, I've got one here that's already dry. This one here. So just pop that to one side. So I'm going to make the throat next. Just put some white fat on there. Then I want my rolling pin. There it is. Just move those out of the way. Don't roll it too thin, because the orchids are quite fleshy flowers, so you're not rolling them out like you do rose petals and things like that. We don't need a groove up the centre of this, but we are going to frill the edge as well, so you need a little bit of sustenance there. You can tell by feeling it whether you think it's thin enough. Right, so then I'm going to cut that out like that. Take the excess away. And then with your palette knife you sort of lift that off your board. And then put it onto your hand. Now, first of all, I'm going to vein this, so I'll just turn that over. Pop the throat into the centre, and I'm bringing it down where the veining's a bit deeper than, it's not quite as deep at the top, so I brought it down to that sort of area. Pop the veiner on top, give it a good press, and then just ease that off of your veiner. I don't know if you can see the veining on that if I just turn it towards the light there. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to get that on the edge of my hand, and you need your silk veining tool then for this, which is this one. I'm just going to bring that a little bit further forward. Get rid of that out of the way. Keep the veining tool with the point upwards like that, so it's not going to dig into your paste. And then on the very edge, start rolling it like that. Now when you do that, you need to lift it off because it will stick to your fingers. Go a little way down the side there. Now you can go back in between your scallops there, just in case you've got a little thick piece. Just go in, take any thick bits out and frill it as you want. The reason we're frilling it is because we want this to curve back, and if you don't frill it, it won't curve back very easily. This makes the job a lot easier. Now if you want to thin these edges, you can do. I'll put it onto my yellow pad here so you can see what I'm doing. And rather than, oops, gone into a hole there, doing like you normally do with normal flour paste, I would roll the edges on this because it's a bit like cold porcelain. Anybody that's worked with cold porcelain know what I mean. If you try to drag the edges, it'll tear. So I find it easier to roll the ball tool around the edge. That's why I'm gone on to using a ball tool rather than a dog bone tool for thinning the edges of petals and things like that. Right, so once you've done that, we need to get some glue and just put it down either side here of the throat petal. And then if you pop your throat down into it, and then just very gently pick the petal up onto the column like that. And I've torn it a little bit there, just ease that back into place. One good thing about the paste being soft, it will go back into place. Bring the other side up to meet it, like that, and then bring that up over the column. So you've got your throat hanging back like that, and then you just curve this back. You can come back and do this when it starts drying if you want, but just make sure that it's nice and firm onto the column, and if necessarily roll down the bottom again just to make sure that that's secure. And then if you get it onto your foam pad here and pop it over the edge like that, so it's just hanging over the edge, bring those bits up. That wants to come up this way, and then that wants to curve back from there. But I would leave that until it starts setting again and keep coming back to it and having another go at it. Right, so onto the petals. I'm only going to do one of each. Now there are 3 different petals on this. 2 the same shape with the narrow one, and then 1 which is going to be different, which I'll explain as I go on, and then 2 of the wide ones. So I'm just going to do 3 petals, 1 wide and 2 narrow. Again, don't roll your paste too thin because they are quite fleshy. I might not get 3 petals out of this, but we'll see. And then I'm going to use my ridge tool. If you haven't got the ridge tool, as I keep saying in all of my videos, if you've got the groove board, use the groove board. But when you roll your paste out, before you cut it out, turn it over so you can see where your ridge is. So we'll just cut that out. I think we might get one narrow one out of it. Yep, just about. Then take your excess paste away. Now you need some 26 gauge wire for this. I think I've got some here in amongst. I've just got 3 bits of wire here. Get your petal on your first finger with your thumb on top, and you just need to feel it go up with your thumb. You can feel it inside, make sure it don't come out, and then feed your wire up your petal. Just take your time with it, don't try and rush it. There we are, that's that one. Pop that onto my pad. Sorry about the dog, he's heard somebody outside. I'm hoping my camera's taking this because this is the 3rd time I've done this video. I had to change my camera. I've got a new camera, that didn't work. So I had to send it back and get another new camera. That's partly the reason why I haven't been on for so long, because I've had so many problems with equipment and myself. Right, so I'm just going to cut another one out before I do anything with those and leave those. This technique, because it's flexible and it's quite soft, it does take quite a while to dry, so you can afford to cut quite a few petals out and leave them to one side. Right, and then a ridge up the middle. And one more narrow one. In between your finger and thumb, and twist your wire into the bottom. It's 26 gauge wire for doing petals. If they're very small, you can get away with, if you're doing a smaller version, you can get away with a 28 gauge wire. It depends on the size of your flower as to how strong you want your wire to be, but remember that the bigger the number, like 30, 32, the thinner the wire. Thicker wires are smaller numbers, so you're getting up to size 20 and 18 for the thicker, heavier wires if you're going to do anything like that. Right, so once we've done that, then you can thin your edges on this. Again, roll around the edges. Just keep lifting it up because it does stick to your pad, just to make sure that you're not going to tear it or anything. Do a little bit at a time. Pop that to one side. Just gently, just let the weight of the ball tool do the work. Don't need to put pressure on it. If you need a stiffer paste when you're making it, you can just add a little bit more CMC or gum trag, whichever you're using. But I wouldn't recommend getting it too stiff because it's harder to work with. I prefer working with the softer paste because it gives you more time to work with it, and it's a lot easier, especially if you've got problems with arthritis like I have in my hands. It works a lot better. So again, back to the veiner. Now, like leaf veiners, it's got a groove and it's got a ridge in the middle as this. So make sure that your ridge goes into the groove like that, because everything's backwards way on veiners. Give it a press. Lift that out of there. So that's the front of that. Get that in the centre. The wire's a little bit off because it's bent. Don't worry about that, as long as your petal's straight. That's that. And that one. Right, so I'm just going to pop that to one side and bring my foam over again. Now then, that is the front of the petal. Now these petals on the wide ones curve back like that. So what you do is just curve them back like that and then just flip it over and pop it into your foam like that. Now then, one of these petals, the ones at the back part of the orchid, which are these, hang on, where are we? The two petals here go to the back. They curve back the same as the wide ones. So curve those over like that. Flip that over into there like that. Then the last petal, which is the petal that comes up in the middle here, I don't know if you can see that, hang on. This one here, that one curves up, it cups up. So basically, get your finger and thumb on it, bend your wire up, and then cup the front of the petal up like that. And then that goes into your foam that way up, the right way up. Now you can come back to this, or in fact you can pop it into the dip there, and it'll dip more into there like that. And then put those to one side to dry. Right, so just get rid of that out of the way. Just have a look at my throat, which is all gone out of shape. Because it is very soft as this weather. It's quite warm today as well, so that might have something to do with it. And I'm just going to curve the back top of the petal back a bit. That'll help to keep it open. So I want it to stay closed there and curve back that way. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into my dry foam. So what I've done is I've put that into the dry foam at the side like that, so it's down at an angle like that. That should help to keep it in shape. Get that out of the way. Right, so now we're going to come onto the colours. So I've used 3 colours for this orchid. So we'll start off with the throat. Now I have made one, it's gone out of shape, so please don't criticise me on this because I know it's out of shape, but it's just basically to show you how to colour it because I've already got some made up that are fine. When I find my brush, for painting, whatever I've done with it. I think I put it back in my foam over here. Yeah, it's there. No, that's not the one. That one. I'm using a very fine brush here. This is a treble naught. So here I've got some, I think it's blackcurrant is this that I'm using for the centre. So I've got some dust on here, first on the brush. And what I'm going to do with that is, see if I can get this back into shape again. I'm going to go deep down into the throat here. And I'm just going to dust out there. So there's a little bit of the burgundy right at the very base of the throat there. That's the only dusting we're going to do on that. And the next bit I'm going to paint. So if I can find my little dropper. Where's it gone? I had all my bits and pieces. Oh, it's there. Here we are. So I've got some isopropyl here. Put my brush down there. There we are. Got some isopropyl in there. And then just a few drops into the lid. Now there's already some colour in there. I don't need to add any more into there. So I just mix that with my brush into there. I always use the cap as a palette because there's no need in making any more washing up than you have to. But once, if you let it dry, then you just put it back on, you can reconstitute it again. So all I'm going to do now, not right from the edge, I'm leaving a little bit of white on the edge. I'm just going to brush down with this. You don't have to be too neat. You don't have to be too perfect. There's nothing perfect in nature. I'm sorry about my croaky voice, by the way, because I've had a chest infection and it's left me a bit hoarse, to say the least. All the way around the lip of your throat there. Right, once you've got round the edge there, the dots on this aren't as neat as they are on some things, like on some of the lilies. They're more blotches. So you go down the centre, from the centre part, they come the furthest down. Just need to add a little bit more isopropyl to that. I've got a chunk of powder on there, just get rid of that. So down the centre here, and then a bit higher up round the edge there. And just open that out so you can see what I've done there. Right, so we can put that to one side now. I'm not going to use that one anyway because I've got one that I made up earlier. So I'm going to get rid of that and clean that off when I find my glaze cleaner. Here we are. I always keep some isopropyl to one side for cleaning brushes in. Whenever you've used the leaf glaze or colours or anything like that, wash your brushes out in that and it brings them back to as they should be. But I keep that just for cleaning my brushes in. That's why it looks a bit murky. Right. Now I've got two colours here on the pad. Just take it a bit further down there so you can see that. I've got this orangey colour here, which is tangerine, I think. And then I've got sunflower, which is the yellow that I've used. So, where's my leaves? Oh, they're there. Here we are. So I've got 3 leaves here that have dried, same as the ones that I made earlier. And I've got two brushes here, one that I've used for my yellow, one I've used for my orange. Just get rid of that rolling pin underneath there, that's getting in the way. It's better. So what I'm going to do now is, first of all, I'm going to start off with the yellow. I'm just going to catch the edges of each of these petals. With a lot of these flowers, it's better to cut your paste out in white and then colour it the way you want it. Unless your base colour is a strong colour, then you're going to colour it with enhance it with the same colour, then you can colour your paste. But with a lot of flowers, depending on what you're doing, a white base is the best way to go. Then turn it over and do the same thing on the back. Bring the colour over. I think I'm just going to do one of these petals because it cuts the time down that you've got to sit and watch me. But it's the same process on all of them. And then the orange, just brush all over, put it on your just leaving that little bit of yellow just on the very edge. And I haven't put any more powder on there. There's enough to do one petal, so doesn't matter if you go a bit over the yellow. There we are. So just shape that again. So that's the top part of it, like that. And do the same with the other two. Because they do the same on both sides, it doesn't really matter. It's exactly the same process with both of them. Right, so I'll just put the top back on my isopropyl and put that away. Put the top on that so we don't knock it over. All the colours that I'm using, by the way, are from Edible Art, and their website is www. all one word, Edible Art World of Colour, all one word, .co.uk. So if you want to buy the colours from them, they're cheaper than most people, and they've got a massive range, much bigger than a lot of firms. And they have a fantastic range of colours. I've been using them for donkey's years. Right, so we'll get rid of that out of the way. Get rid of that paste into my bag. So I've got all my bits and pieces for the orchid here, all the pieces that I've already coloured. And where's the throat? There it is. There we are. Oh, what I did forget to do was to do the yellow bit in the middle. I'll just do that first before we get on to the next step, which is where the pollinators pollinate the flowers. So you want a tiny ball of paste. Probably about half the size of that. So it wants to be about the size of a small druggie. Tiny. Roll that. And then whatever you're using, whether it's these straight pliers or something else with a straight edge, just divide that in two like that. So it looks a bit like a piece of rice, or what's the other one that's got a groove in the centre? Can't think of it at the moment, but it's tiny anyway. So we'll just get rid of that onto there like that. Then if you get that throat that you've coloured, and then bit of glue just down in the bottom there, and then if you get your tweezers just to pick it up, drop that into place, and then just manoeuvre it about and just give it another press down into there. like that. So you've got your little centre in there. I don't know whether you can see that. And pop that to one side to dry. Excuse me. So when you've got when it's dried, then that's what it looks like in the centre. I don't bother colouring that because I've just coloured it yellow. You could use some pollen on it if you wanted to, but most people won't be able to tell unless you're doing realistic flowers for a competition. Then you would spend a bit more time on it and do that probably. Right, so I've got some half-width tape here, so I'm going to start that off underneath the column. So just stretch it, make sure that that's attached, and just find out your sticky side. Just pull it like that and it's stuck to my finger, so that's the sticky side. Bring that in, nip it in with your nail and roll between your finger and thumb, and then you can start adding your petals in. Now these two are the two small ones that are curved down. So one wants to go to one side like that. Doesn't matter if it moves around a little bit at this stage, we can adjust that once we've got them in. Then put the other one in at the other side. And then I would tape down. This holds them in position, and when you put your next ones in, they grip a bit better when you're doing this. And just adjust them into place, and just get your wires and pull them down. Make sure those are nice and tight in. They're not going to move around. That's it. And then start your tape off again underneath there, and then take the petal that's curved up, which is this one. I'm just going to bend that up a little bit more because the paste is still quite soft. You can't do this with normal flower paste, but you can with this kind of paste. You can shape that a bit better, and then that bends down and that goes in facing the centre of those two there, like that. And just tape that down a little bit to hold that in place. Then you can just adjust that as you want it. Make sure that that's nice and tight in, like that. And then get your tape and start it off again underneath there, like that. Now if you find it easy to pull your petals up a little bit till you get them all in like that, that's easy. I mean, you can leave the finished flower like that as well if you want, because obviously you can leave them where they're just opening. So again, we want it with the petals curved back, bend it down, and then pop that down in between those two petals there. Tape in, and then the other one at the other side, in between there, like that, and then tape down. Once you've taped down a little way, then that's the best time to adjust your wires while you can see which wires are which. Pull them in like that. That's the other one. Just pull that in. That's it. And then tape all the way down then. If your tape gets a bit ravelled up like that, just open it out and then go back in again. Right, now you can open your petals back out again there, like that. So that's that done. And then to put them into a spray, I'm going to use some full width tape, not enough on there, just getting the roller tape. I'm using Nile green for this, which is the lighter green, because they do have quite like green stems. But these tend to grow on a very long stem, and the leaves come from the bottom. You don't have any leaves around it, so I don't do leaves with Cymbidium orchids. If you want to do some buds, you can do, but I think in sugarcraft sometimes the buds look a bit ugly, so